Hey guys, Sinister here, back with part 2 of my Arsenal video. So we're going to pick this video pretty much straight off where we left the last one. If you don't know how we got to this point previously, just check the video that's in the description and it'll pop up in the corner now momentarily as well. So in part 1 we covered all the weapons, attachments, sidearms, all that good stuff. So basically the idea behind this one is we're going to talk about all the armor and miscellaneous pieces that you can put on your character. So obviously the first one is our uniform. So there are a couple of considerations here for the uniform. Obviously blending into your environment is important.
Do you want to cast
checking
on that?
checking what kind of map you're on, what terrain, so like water versus say a forest or like an urban site is obviously pretty important to consider. But there are also other things to consider. So at the moment you can see that I am in the combat fatigues, the tank top here. And on the right hand side you'll see I have a small amount of ballistic protection, explosive resistance, load, which means how much can it actually take, and then weight. Okay, so let's talk about each one of these in more detail. So obviously ballistic protection is protection against bullets. So this is what the bad guys are shooting at you. It's pretty self-explanatory. Explosive resistance is your resistance to enemy IEDs, C4s, and grenades that are being thrown at you, and of course rockets that are being thrown, anti-personnel rockets. Load is basically how much equipment your particular piece of clothing can hold, and then weight is the overall weight of that on your character. In Invade and Annex this does not matter, the weight, as we don't have stamina enabled by default. However, if you are playing on say a PvP server or a super realistic server, the weight figure here may actually be quite important to you. So let's just put that in perspective, right? So as you can see, I have combat fatigue. So this is a standard military grade combat fatigue. Let's put on something. We have casual clothes. Okay, so we've changed from combat fatigues, which is here, to casual clothes. And as you can see on the right hand side, our load has decreased, which means that we can no longer equip as much clothing or as much gear in this particular piece of uniform. The uniform isn't super important. It's more around how much you want to weigh and kind of what appearance you want to have within the game. So moving on, we got one of the big ones. So the vest does matter. As you can see, the vest is one of the most important pieces of protection you can get and you can equip. So the one that I use is the Carrier Light. So what that means is that I can carry quite a bit of gear, so that's the load, but the weight means that my character isn't weighed down as much. It just helps me run a bit faster. And so the best, there's lots of different options here, but obviously the Carrier GL is going to have more protection because basically it wraps around my entire body. So if we just look at the character of my character here, you can see if I choose the Carrier GL, my explosive resistance is completely maxed out, which means I have the highest resistance possible to explosives. But it's heavy, right? So as you can see, this covers more of my body, but it's heavy. I use the Carrier Light on most of my loadouts, but you can use this one to see whatever you want. What is important to consider here is the load, okay? The load is quite important as your vest can hold quite a lot of equipment. And depending on what loadout you're so if you're a machine gunner, for example, you're going to want to carry a bucket load of equipment. Obviously, if you're an engineer, you don't need to carry as much, or if you're playing a different role, you don't need to carry as much, say a rifleman. But there are certain roles where you want to carry a lot of individual rounds of ammunition, and what vest you choose is actually really, really important in deciding that. Next up is the backpack. Okay, the backpacks do nothing. They don't offer any protection, but they do offer a load here again on the right hand side. So I'm just going to tell you straight out, the biggest backpack in the game is the Bergen backpack. However, it looks awful. It is hideous. So if you are looking, if you like or you are kind of involved in the immersion or how your character appears in game, the Bergen is awful. In my opinion, the best compromise from the Bergen is the Carrier. The Carrier backpack is pretty nice. It sits quite nicely on your character, and the load isn't actually that much different. So just look here on the right hand side. This is sorry, this is the wrong one. This is a Bergen, so it's pretty much full, and this is the carryall. It's about 2/3 of the way, let's say, 2/3 of the way. So it's up to you, okay? And so you decide what you want to do here. I personally use the Bergen on all my loadouts. A majority of my loadouts, because it's just so good. It's absolutely hideous to look at, but it's just so good. So aside from ballistic protection, explosive protection, we've mentioned load, okay? And why does load matter? Well, this is how you actually equip in quotation marks your character. So this is how you put ammunition, rockets, grenades, and everything you're going to carry around your character. So let's just go back to my standard loadout. I'm just going to do it. We talked about this in my other video. So this is my standard loadout, right? So let's go to uniform. And what you'll notice on the right hand side is you have all these different options, and this is where you get ammunition. So I'm going to go through each one of these individually, and you're going to get this option for your vest on the right hand side and your backpack on the right hand side. Now obviously each of them has different levels of load and what they can carry. So we'll stay on the backpack while we're here. The very first option is magazines for your currently selected weapons. This will include a rocket launcher if you have a rocket launcher, and it will include a pistol if you have a pistol. I do not have either of those in these particular loadouts, but if I choose, say, a hat, I load, and I go to my backpack, you'll see, whoops, apologies, you'll see that I have all these different kinds of ammunition for the weapons that I use. This is extremely important to understand that this is only the weapons that you currently have on. Now, this tab will give you every single round of ammunition available in the game. Why is this important? Okay, this is important because certain weapons can actually equip different rounds of ammunition size. So for example, I am currently using the 6.5mm, and the standard round of magazines is 30 rounds. However, it can actually equip 100 round magazines as well, which is again more efficient in the long run for engaging the enemies. But let's say you're playing an engineer, or you're loading up a vehicle, which I'll do in a separate video, and you want to support your teammates, or you're running in a squad, or you're doing a very specialized mission. You can help your teammates by loading up on what they use, or something in particular here. So for example, the 6.5mm 200 round belt, that's used for the MXM weapon. I'm using the MXC. So this, for example, is something that you could use to help out your teammates who have a very similar loadout to you. This is basically used for if you're running with a squad or a teammate, or you're basically providing a support role to your friends. And you can see the Titan missiles, so the rockets here at the bottom, all of them here. So MOS, PCML, RPGs, and the PG7s. The next one down is grenades. Chem lights, we'll go through all these super quickly. So chem lights, these are just small lights you can drop on the ground at night. For most game modes you won't use them. They're really used generally in modded communities to they're using modded communities basically to light areas up for people to follow, or if you're doing squad, it doesn't really matter. IR grenades, these are just grenades that they're just infrared, so you can see them at night. When they're thrown on the ground, again, they just light up an area. RGN and RGO are the two types of grenades. Now, I haven't done my research on this, so don't shoot me. I'm not a super military guy. RGN is a defensive grenade. So what I believe that does is it has lower concentrated explosive capabilities, but it spreads wider. The idea behind this grenade is that it helps if you're kind of running away or you're defending a location, it helps spread the forces out. The RGO grenade, I think the O stands for offense, is an offensive grenade, which means that if you throw this grenade and it lands in an area, the explosive capabilities at the core of that grenade are far more concentrated and stronger than the RGN. So use that information however you feel. I personally run with the RGN grenade 90% of the time, because I very rarely use grenades, and when I want to use grenades, it's when I'm in big trouble. It's not to kill bad guys, it's to get out of a building or to help clear a building or something like that, and I just find it better. Smoke grenades, I don't really need to talk through it. Explosives. These are very niche and quite an advanced. These are quite an advanced kind of mechanic to the game. But what you will want to generally stock up on here, if you have space in your backpack, is an explosive charge. You'll probably want a minimum of 3 explosive charges. You can sometimes get away with 2, but 3 is recommended, as 3 is the minimum. Sorry, 3 is the amount that is guaranteed to bring down the radio tower objective. 2 can work if you place them very carefully, but 3 is strongly recommended. You can bring more if you want to blow up like enemy vehicles and stuff as well, but 3 is recommended. I actually don't know what all of these mean, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. Claymore charge is claymores, you place them on the ground, or anti-infantry. AT mine stands for anti-tank. IEDs, improvised explosive device, someone rolls over them or walks over them, they explode. Pretty straightforward as IEDs. And slam mine, I think this is like a laser, so if you walk by it, it explodes, but don't quote me on that. And the last one is, and this is a really important one, so don't forget this one, is this plus icon, which is the miscellaneous items. The miscellaneous items is where you get your medkits. So if you're a medic and you forget to load in with a medkit, you will not be able to revive anyone. So this is where you get a medkit. This is also where you get first aid kits to heal yourself and to heal your teammates. A mine detector, so you do not keep getting blown up when you pilots land you on top of hills that are covered with mines. Get a mine detector, save yourself the hassle. The toolkit is what Ironside and engineers use to repair vehicles. Okay, I know that was a lot of information to take in, but let's move on to the remaining pieces of equipment and loadouts that you can do, because there's not really a lot to talk about here. Headgear, pretty straightforward. Again, these all have ballistic and explosive protection. A hard hat is going to give you minimal protection. A military a modular helmet like I have on is going to give you a shit ton of protection. Pretty straightforward. There's not really a whole lot to say here. There are quite actually a lot of fun pieces you can use here. So like, for example, there's a tinfoil hat. There's press helmets, so you can dress up as press. Military caps. There's all kinds of different things you can actually equip here, which kind of does add to the immersion of the game. You can put on some really cool stuff, and you can look pretty damn cool. Actually, if you do put stuff here on, so kind of play around with this wherever you see fit, whatever goes with your character. Facewear. This one is actually again, it's more cosmetic. There's not really a lot to do here. What is important is that if you are equipping a diving suit, so diving suits can be found in vests, you're going to want some goggles so you can actually see under the water, or you're going to have a really, really shit time. Again, respirator, this is something I use in my medic kit. Adds a bit of immersion if I'm running around reviving people, especially during a pandemic. I know we're finished with the pandemic now, but it'll live on our memories for a long time to come. You can put on, some virtual reality goggles. You can put on a wireless earpiece, which I think goes in one of these ears. It's covered right now because I've got a helmet on. So yeah, nothing really important there. Night vision goggles. There are one thing I'm going to say about night vision goggles. One, obviously, is that they're extremely important so that you can see at night. But there are different ones. The NVG2 have thermals as well as night vision. So I'm just going to quickly get out of the arsenal so I can show you what that means. So I currently have ENVGs on, and if I press N, so this is night vision. You can't see it right now because the game isn't night, but this is thermal. So as you can see, I can now see thermal. So I will be able to see infantry that are hiding in grass, in bushes, behind fences, things like that. I highly recommend to just use the ENVG goggles in every single one of your loadouts. If you don't want to, if you consider it cheating or overpowered, that's absolutely fine. It is pretty busted, but I do recommend it. So take that however you want. Binoculars, there's nothing really to say here. There's 3 different types of binoculars in Arma 3. There's regular binoculars, which do nothing, they just zoom in. There's rangefinder, which again is like a more advanced binocular. It zooms in and it can get the range of how far your target is away from you, and then there's the laser designator. I run with the laser designator all the time for a couple of reasons. Number one, it has a night vision mode and it has a thermal mode. It's a different thermal mode to the goggles, but it has a thermal mode. Excellent for counter sniping. But also, if you turn it on, which I can't do because I'm on base, you'll see on the top right hand side of my screen right now, there's a laser designator off button. By equipping a laser designator, you can laser targets, so tanks, anti-air guns, whatever it might be, and your CAS and UAV and other laser guided ordnance can lock onto your laser. Extremely powerful for when you are in the AO or you're defending as an infantry and you're completely overwhelmed. If you can find cover and put a laser on a tank in front of you, it's unbelievably powerful. Highly recommend again using a laser designator. The next one is just a map. There's literally one option here. So yeah, equip a map that allows you to open your map. Next one is the terminal. Again, this is a GPS. If you do not have a GPS equipped, you cannot open your minimap. So my minimap is my left square bracket, and as you can see, that it puts a minimap up on the left hand side of my screen. Just super helpful. If you do not have a GPS, I'm just going to drop it on the ground. I can no longer get a minimap and I can no longer locate my character on the map. So that is quite annoying. I personally never run without GPS, but you know, you do you. Arsenal, terminal, we've already got communication, a radio. You want to have a radio at all times, as that actually allows you to speak in channels in game. So you can change channels by using the comma and the point key, or full stop, as some people call it. And then obviously you can communicate with other players by using a radio. So yeah, highly recommend having a radio. And then the last two is a compass. Nothing really to say here. You want to have a compass, so you can open up your compass by pressing K. And the final one is, it's a cosmetic one, but it is your watch. There's only one watch on this server. There are plenty of watch mods out there. But if you press O, you can bring up your watch. That's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This video was a little bit longer than I intended, but hopefully you got a lot out of it. It's quite important that I separate out the weapons from everything else, because weapons are obviously your primary killing capabilities and everything else is utility. So you build everything else around your weapons, and how you do that and how you go about that is different depending on your playstyle and how you approach the game. I'll speak to you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.